unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This episode is brought to you by White Cloud Coffee Roasters, where every bean tells a story of adventure. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com and use the code CREATIVITY.
Welcome back, friends, to our podcast, Your World of Creativity. And today's guest proves that your creative career doesn't have to rely on algorithms or going viral or just getting lucky. If you've ever wondered how to really strategize your creativity into a real profession, a real company, a real living, and building a living around your work, this conversation's for you. I'm so excited to have as my guest today, Kern Carter. Kern, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and you're doing a lot of great work. I'm tapping into Toronto, Ontario, Canada today to talk to Kern. He's a former independent, but now published author under Penguin and Scholastic. He's also been writing essays really about the intersection of publishing and pop culture. He's got a lot of insight from his experience, and just the past year selling, over 15,000 books. He's not viral. He's not an influencer on social media. And so he's going to tell us how to really intentionally. Let's start there, Kern, really building your creative career on a purpose. Even as we started our conversation this morning, you said living on purpose, living the life is what's important to you. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it takes a real commitment. And for me, when I have these conversations, I like to really tell people that I committed to being an author very early in my life. I knew I wanted to be an author since I was 8, but I committed to it once I started university, about midway through university. So I made every decision that I made during that time and after that time was with the commitment to being an author, period. For me, being here or arriving to where I am today, first of all, was a lot of work and a lot of time, but it's also a lot of preparation and strategy. Like I wanted to be here. I didn't just dream of being here. I strategized and found a way to get here very, very deliberately. So that yes, this is art. Yes, this is creativity, and art is subjective. Creativity is a toss up, but the business isn't. Business, there are pillars to business. There are metrics to business. There are directions to business. And if you're able to blend the two as naturally as possible, then you could have some success.
Yes. And I think about the roller coaster ride. It was not a straight line for you, was it?
Oh,
I read in your background, you dropped out of high school at 18, but then earned an athletic scholarship and started self-publishing some books, later secured an agent. So this idea that creative journey is a straight line, it's straight up, is not exactly true for you. I know that.
not at all. And sometimes that line is blurred. Sometimes you can't even see the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what line?
What line? You're going on shape, blind sometimes. No, yeah, I think with the obstacles, any kind of career that you pursue is going to come with obstacles. That's why I wanted to start the conversation by saying I committed to it. Once I made that commitment, then the obstacles almost don't matter. My intention is to find a way around them or find a way through them, or let them or use those obstacles to actually motivate me. So once I said I'm going to be an author, it didn't matter that I had a child at a young age. It didn't matter that I lost my first agent. It didn't matter that I dropped out. It didn't none of those things mattered. It was just another obstacle that I knew I had to overcome if I wanted to reach my goal. And there was nothing that was going to stop me from reaching my goal. So I was more than determined. I was just thinking through where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do with my life, which is right for a living, and what would it take to get there. And I was able to navigate my way through all the challenges.
Yes. I'd love to drill down on that. Obviously, we all love words like perseverance and resilience and determination, and that's a good attitudinal approach to life. But you said I strategized my life, and I'm very curious as to what that kind of strategy looked like for you.
Yeah, so I'll try to get as specific as possible. First of all, it started with the jobs that I took. When I graduated university, I had an opportunity, went to university in New York. I had an opportunity to go to New York City and take a job that would pay, and this is the early 2000s, mid 2000s, that would pay about $80K a year. So it was a significant amount, especially coming out of high school, out of university. But I turned that job down because I knew it would take so much of my energy that I wouldn't have enough energy to actually commit to my writing. Turned that job down, went back to Toronto, started cleaning cars for a living at a car rental company. But that allowed me to do shift work, meaning that I could go clean the cars, get paid, and then I could come home and not have to think about, oh my gosh, what's happening at my job? My job was
Hmm.
over. I committed all my time now to learning how to write, to writing my book, to understanding to studying the craft. And really that was step one for me, was just like really prioritizing writing in a practical way. And the other thing I had to do very I learned very quickly is that I actually needed to study the craft and study the industry. I I told you that I've been writing since I was 8. I knew I wanted to be an author since I was 8. That said, there is a lot about writing, especially writing novels, that is extremely technical. I would even venture to say that novel writing or book writing is about 50% creative, 50% technical if you want to really
Interesting.
be your best. You know what I'm saying? Now you could get away. Obviously, there are always exceptions, and you could be really good at just being a storyteller. But if you want to be your best, you have to be able to pair the two. And I wanted to be the best, so I started studying the craft. I spent an entire summer studying something called the Little Brown Handbook, which is like this thick book about grammar and sentence structure and stuff like that. And I took an entire summer and I studied that book. I had this little other book called the author is something Shrink. It's called Writing, I believe. And I carried that book around with me all the time. So I studied the craft. And then after I got to my first book, I realized that my first self-published book, I had to study the industry. I didn't know enough about the industry itself. What books are being published? What does marketing look like? Where are they sourcing paper from? Why does that matter? Who are bestsellers? What books are bestsellers? What types of books are agents signing in the current moment? I studied all of that. I would work in the days, write in the mornings, work in the day, and then I committed my evenings to research, period. So from 6 till 10, 7 till 10, I'm just reading essays, articles, whatever I can. I'll give a shout out right now to Jane Friedman. Jane Friedman is like the Bible for publishing, and I read so many of her essays and so many of her articles. And early on, she was a really good resource for me. So I studied the craft, studied the industry, and then again, just once I understood those two things, I was like, I need readership. I need to build readership. I need to understand what readers want from me, because building a fan base and a readership are two different things. Fans are not readers. Though that's probably the biggest lesson that I learned in my entire career. You could have 1 million fans. That doesn't matter. How many readers do you have? So I needed to start building a readership of people who would read my work, not just click like on a post or something like that. So I put my first couple of books out self-published, started understanding what readers can expect from me and what they wanted from me, what they would accept from me. And that, again, that was very strategic at the same time. And once I got to book 2, I self-published my second novel. I was like, all right, I have a deep enough understanding of craft, the industry, and everything else, and how to, build community and reach. I want to go get published now. So I was like, no more self-publishing. I'm gonna go get published. First step, go get an agent. I did that, right? And then again, I this so all that to say, I I approach my writing career, my creative career, like a plumber or a doctor or an electrician would approach their career. There are steps, there are certifications that you have to go through. I did that for myself. But once you go through the certifications, you are a plumber, you are an electrician, you are a doctor, you are an accountant, right? Like you have to go through those steps to get there. So I knew, so if I went through those steps, I was going to get to where I am. So I went through all those steps, and it's as magical as it feels to get a publishing deal, to be published by my dream publisher, which initially was Penguin and then Scholastic, and then to also sell books at a high rate. Like now I'm at a percentage of authors that is so rare.
Yes.
And as magical as that feels, it was very strategic. I
Yes.
applauded
I
this.
mean,
I applauded it.
when you were talking about the path of the craft, the building blocks of building this yellow brick road, it was like
Mhm.
one brick at a time that you're describing. And I really wanted to underscore, rewind a little bit on this community building idea. And that I really like the contrast between fans and readers. It's one thing to get the endorphins from a thumbs up, makes us feel so good. But doesn't a buyer and a reader make us feel better?
So
And
much.
so talk to us about community building rather than fan base building.
Co I think community building is a lot more intimate and intentional. So what I mean by that is fan building, I think you take what you can get. Whoever jumps on the airplane with you, they're coming along for the ride. Community building is intentional. It is creating spaces and creating conversations around the things that are important to you, and then engaging the community in those conversations and those topics. So, for example, I started a blog at first that eventually turned into a magazine, but I started a blog and I called that blog Cry. And I called it Cry very specifically because I wanted to vent about all of the frustrations I was having as a writer. That was my first community building effort because I'm like, I am speaking only to writers. That's who I want to
Mhm.
speak to. You all are writers or readers. That was my thesis, right? Like writers or readers. I'm only going to speak to writers and whatever comes from it. So I was specific. I wasn't talking to anybody else in my language, in the way that I framed the articles. It was only talking to writers. The lingo that I used was only speaking to writers. And that eventually, fast forwarding a little bit, that became my most popular platform. Cry became the thing where if even to today, even though I have a lot more readers today, even I think if you'd go and ask the majority of readers, or maybe it's a little bit shifted now, but a lot of my readers, where they know me from, they'll tell you they know me from Cry, because that's where I formed that community. That's where I was set. We started talking about literature together. That's where I welcomed other people into the conversation and said, okay, I've spoken enough. What do you have to say about the emotional aspect of being a writer? I'll post it on my platform. And I turned it into a magazine. We got to 40,000 views, readers a month, like off an independent magazine with zero marketing dollars spent. Zero, absolutely zero, because again, I was speaking directly to an audience about a topic that they found interesting and a topic that spoke to not just me, but to also to their lives very
Yes.
specifically. So that was my first kind of community building effort. And I think, again, that intimacy, that directness in conversation, that the fact that I spoke the language of the readership that I wanted, it's that was my initiation into it. And then I took all those lessons and then I transformed that because I ended up shutting down Cry and spun it into Writers Are Superstars. Again, same thought process, did the exact same thing. And
Writers are
now
readers. Yeah.
writers are readers.
And yet
So
it's you're playing a long game, that this is not clickbait. This is not how fast can I build my list. It takes, yeah, I read here, 15 years of a journey.
yes, yeah,
So to call this an overnight success and people go, oh, Kern, but I don't have your fan base. I don't have your community. I don't have your following. But look how long it took. And
yeah.
I'm also curious when you said, that this building over time, in the slow seasons, in the days when it wasn't going so well, in the days that weren't where does the motivation stay? How do you keep going when those
Really, really
results
good
don't come
question.
so fast?
Really good question. Again, I am going to go back to commitment. You can, if you are committed to something, it's like being in a relationship, or I imagine being in a marriage. If you are committed to something, you are staying through that thing no matter what. Almost, right? Like almost no matter what, you are going to stay through that. Sometimes the passion for it feels fleeting. Like the passion for it, you're like, oh, another article with 2 likes, another month, and I didn't get the number of subscribers I want to get. My first book out and I didn't sell as many as I wanted to. All these things are happening. I lost my first agent. So all these things are happening. And I want to be clear, I am feeling emotional about these things. I am distraught. I am hurt. I feel like giving up. I don't want to move forward. But in my mind, I have committed to this and there's nothing else I want to do on this earth except write, period. So what that commitment is what drives me. And I'll also say this. I don't think I know people, if you read all these self-help books and business books, like they'll give you all these secrets to success. I don't think there's any secret to success except one through line. The only through line I could see to anything is discipline. If you are somehow able to stay disciplined for long stretches of time, it doesn't even have to be forever, but if you can stay disciplined for very long stretches of time, I think that is the only thing that I say is would define your success. If you polled 1 million people who are successful in their fields, I think that would be the one thing that would be unison for everyone. Everyone had a long stretch of discipline where they're able to accomplish something. And I think I had a very long stretch of discipline where I was writing every single morning from 5 a.m. till 8 a.m., where I was doing that research that I told you about every single evening and for years. I'm not talking about months, but I mean, my discipline went on for years before I started loosening up a little bit. So I think that also helped. I was very committed to, I was very disciplined about my routine. And that routine helped did dull the emotional flare-ups that I was experiencing when things were going right. I'll just go back to discipline. Well, I'm writing tomorrow morning, doesn't matter. I'm writing tomorrow morning, doesn't matter. I'm researching this evening, it doesn't matter. And I just kept that, and that kept me a little bit grounded.
And this discipline, certainly as a writer, at your foundation, but a real creative business person at the larger 50,000 foot view. You're also doing some film production. You've got a film on Amazon Prime now, and you're helping other emerging writers. So it's really a creative entrepreneurship, not just sitting at the keyboard.
Absolutely, absolutely. The thing about a creative career, a writing career is a creative career, and I think it's really important to know that. There's a really good Substack out called "How I Make Money Writing" or "How I Made Money Writing," and it talks about all of the different writers from like net sold your film to Netflix to like a writer who's maybe just getting started. But in all of the cases, 99.9 of them are living a creative career. They're doing multiple creative things. And then they might be multiple written creative things or multiple things within the writing universe. But it is an exception. And maybe I don't even know how rare of an exception, an extremely rare exception to to be able to just, let's say, write novels for a living and not do anything else. So if you're able to accept that and be find ways to leverage your ability to write, find ways to leverage your ability to storytell and adapt that into offerings that can either help other people or can form or create other creative IP, then you start building a career. And that's how I looked at it. The most amount of money I've made so far has not come from selling novels. I just started selling books recently. This 15,000 number is over the last year, like 2024 to 2020. I
Mhm.
just started selling a lot of novels. I made the most money from my career off services, ghostwriting, copywriting, script writing, like partnerships, grants. Like I made money off auxiliary practices, let's say, or auxiliary creative explorations rather than just novel writing.
Yes.
That's the truth of the matter. That's still the truth of the matter today. And even though, like I said, I do write for a living, and I don't do maybe what people would consider a standard 9 to 5 job, I still work a lot. I still do other things outside
Exactly.
of just I wake up and I write my novel every day, but that's not all I do. I wouldn't be able to survive financially. It's just we don't live in a world where that's possible right now.
Yes. And I think I wanted to maybe shift into guiding aspiring authors and other creative entrepreneurs in that regard. Formal education only goes so far in the business of writing and publishing. You talked about all the discipline in learning the craft, not only of writing, but also publishing and selling. What do you think an aspiring author or writer listening to this podcast needs to know, especially adapting to changes that are coming every day? We pick up something new every day. We're reading about AI, we're reading about consolidation in the creative industries, all sorts of other challenges, but also look at all the outlets, look at all the opportunities, look at all the platforms for your creative work. So, what does an aspiring creative need to know from your point of view?
I would say a couple of things. One that you mentioned. The first thing I would say is find a source of income or revenue. Find one, and it does not have to be creative. Find us if you can find a way to take the concern of having to make a dollar every single week or every single day out of your mind, and especially having that dollar have to come from your creativity. If you could take that out of your mind, it frees up so much mental space and capacity for creativity. I know people think that when you are struggling and going through it, that you create these wonderful things. That is not sustainable. You can ask any writer about who's created art that has come from some kind of trauma. It's not sustainable. What's sustainable? A healthy mind, a free mind, a mind that's allowed the space to actually create. Believe me on that. That is something I really want every aspiring writer to know. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is take your time. To your point, there are so many platforms out there now. There's Substack, there's Reams, there's social media, obviously. There's Fable. We can go on and on about the multiple platforms that are out there right now. Take your time and figure out what you want to create, how you want to create that thing, and make that thing spectacular. Because guess what? You are not just competing against writers. You're competing against Netflix. You're competing against Disney. You're competing against social media. You're competing
true.
against YouTube. So what is going to make someone not choose those options and choose you? You're competing against me, and I'm writing every day. I'm pushing myself every day to be the best. I told you, I study this craft still to this day, every single day. You're competing against me. Why do you think you're better than me? Why do you think someone's going to look at your work and not look at my work? Quality matters. People, I think there's this kind of thought process out there right now that speed and convenience matter more than quality. I think that is so wrong. I think all the best musicians in the world are actually the best. Like the ones who get recognition are actually really good. No matter what you think about them, they are actually really good. And that goes for writers, and that goes for artists like painters. That goes for photographers. They are really good. They can do things that you cannot do. You need to be able to do those things in your own way. You need to find the thing that makes you special, the perspective that makes you unique. And that takes time. It takes time. Give yourself the time, which is why I started the conversation by saying, find a source of revenue, because that source of revenue will give you more time to build up,
give you the cushion. Yeah.
to be who you are and find who you are as an artist. Because once you find it, it's beautiful after that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's magical. I've been talking with Kern Carter, author, creative entrepreneur. Kern, I know people are going to want to connect with you, find out more about your books, your creative projects, and of course, your community and teaching platforms. How can we find you?
Best way is to go to my website, kerncarter.com. You'll see everything on there, from my books to my films. I'm doing a short film project right now. That's exciting. So everything you need to see, kerncarter.com.
All right. And that's kerncarter.com. Fantastic. And I'll put that in the show notes so people will have ready access to it. As we close, Kern, we've been talking about creatives giving focus, learning, but there's a lot of people listening who, I don't know, there's some reason that we creatives feel behind. Or you talk about comparing, why am I better than you? They get discouraged. I'm not better. I didn't wash cars this morning and study tonight. But so I lost a day, or I missed out on a job. Now what am I going to do? I'm unsure. Is this plan working? I better give up. I better get back to reality, whatever they think. Tell us about that. Patience, strategy, perseverance. What do we need to learn, and what worked for you?
If you don't love writing, don't do it. I'll be pretty plain with this one. The emotional journey that you're going to go through and have to sustain is too much to endure if you don't love writing. So if you don't love it, do something else. Keep writing as a hobby. Keep writing as something you do once in a while. Journal, maybe mess around with it. Show your friends some of your writing, but don't pursue it as a career, because it takes a lot out of you. I'm talking about just emotionally. Forget all the other stuff I said. Emotionally, it takes a lot out of you, because there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of no's. There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of feedback that you're going to have to do to get better. And if you're not willing to accept all of those things and still keep going, then it's not worth it. And the only way it's worth it is if you love it, like actually love it. And that's the only way you're going to get through it. So I would tell you, if writing is not a calling for you, if the art you're doing is not a calling for you, just keep it as a hobby and don't pursue it as a career.
I love that asterisk, that there's nothing better than writing as a creative expression. And like you say, journaling, that's just good for our mental health, right?
Yeah.
But if you say, this is my career, this is what I'm going to do for a living, then you got to treat it like a business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love that. Kern, can't thank you enough. What a great conversation. I'm motivated. I'm ready to turn off the record button and get writing.
I appreciate you.
It's fantastic. You bet. And I love this, folks. This is why I do the podcast. Every week when I get to talk to people like Kern, I think to myself, I got to turn on the microphone. I got to be on. I got to whatever. And then I finish the interview and I'm creatively inspired again. So that's the kind of recharging of the battery we all need. I've been doing this creative gig now for many decades. Kern, I have a couple of decades on you. I got some gray hairs on me. But that's why we keep needing the motivation. And I love talking to folks like you who are doing the work, continuing the motivation, staying persistent, and getting the work done. And folks, that's why I do the podcast, and I hope that's why you subscribe and you rate us and review us and all the things that you do for podcasts, because we want to keep this going. We're going to keep going around the world talking to creative practitioners. We've been to Toronto today. We're going to continue on. We've been to Stockholm and Cape Town, South Africa, and Brazil and Tokyo and all over the world talking to creative practitioners about how they get inspired, yes, but how we organize ideas and how we gain the confidence, the connections to launch our work out into the world. And that's what it's all about. So until next time, I'm Mark Stinson, and we'll keep unlocking your world of creativity.